I hate to say it, but white folks are largely professional gaslighters when it comes to race. We are professional liars when it comes to race. It's part of white supremacy and how it functions and how it works. From the very first African that was enslaved, we have been gaslighting Black folks as white people. That's our culture. That's our tradition. That's our indoctrination. And that's what we do. And that's what we do best. We lie every single day. And we lie to Black people. We lie to each other. We lie to ourselves about race. We gaslight. Gaslight, if you don't know, it's a psychological term. It's where the abuser tells the victim that this reality of you being abused is not really happening. It's just something in your imagination. You're being paranoid. You're being too sensitive. All this abuse is not real. And if it is real, it's only because you deserved it. I was trying to help you. It's justified somehow. We have always justified our racism. And if we're not justifying it, we're denying it. If we're not denying it, then we're deflecting it. The last thing white people would do is simply acknowledge the truth racially. That's why I say we're bullshit artists. We are professional fucking liars and gaslighters. That's exactly what we do as white people, and that's the fucking truth. And if you deny it, you're a fucking liar. 90% of white people today, right now in America, no matter how young or how old, we've been so profoundly indoctrinated that we cannot simply acknowledge the truth racially. Can't do it. And if we do it, there's a but or a deflection. Can't do it. 90% of us will not do it. So this is why we are gaslighting academically. This is why Black history all around America right now is being criminalized. That tradition of gaslighting, that tradition of hiding, that tradition of pretending racism is not real is their educational system. And they want to protect that tradition. They do not want the truth to be out. People know that the hope is with the younger generation. Isn't it what they always say? I hope the younger people, I hope the next generation will do better. They know that if the truth ever gets taught racially, that's why CRT is banned. That's why if you talk about race, it's banned. All around America, states, counties, schools, teachers, threat of arrest, Black stories, beautiful Black books, banned, erased, censored, libraries empty, criminalization of Black history, folks. Because why? Because white people are racist. White people are all about denying. White people are all about gaslighting. That's our tradition. Deny, deflect, never teach the truth, never acknowledge the truth. Because if we do, if we teach the truth, what will happen? White supremacy could be threatened. Economic advantages for white people, the dominant position could be threatened. They're threatened, like all bullies are threatened. They're threatened by their victims. So of course they don't want the truth to be taught. So what do? They keep it whitewashed. They keep the lies perpetrating, the narratives, the whitewashing. Pretend George Washington, Andrew Jackson were heroes as they owned hundreds of slaves. Keep pretending, keep denying, keep whitewashing. Let's not learn about Black heroes. Let's not learn about Black stories. Let's not learn about Black history. Let's not learn about Black contributions. Why? Because that would be the truth. And that's not our tradition. We're supposed to promote whiteness. That's how white nationalism works. They pretend that, we're innocent. We're trying to protect the sensitivity of our white children. No, you're not. You're trying to keep white supremacy and your privilege alive. You want to be on top the same way that your parents wanted to be on top and their parents wanted to be on top. That's how white supremacy works. It's a power thing. The idea of dismantling white supremacy cannot happen until we can teach our children the truth.
Welcome to a rare episode of You Left Shit Out. I'm your host for today. I'm Jay in real life. Compton J or CJ online, and I've met a couple of people who knew us, who knew RBN at the last weekend, at the protest last weekend, and in real life, somebody comes up and say, "Hey, Compton J," I'm like, "Oh no, I'm just Jay." Uh, it's just sort of like a handle. Most people just call me, although CJ has become common on RBN. So, but anyway, welcome to the show. Today's Wednesday. When you have Nick and CJ, you just have a separate. So you have my show in the daytime. You have Nick at night tonight. So make sure you get on our Substack. Actually, let me put that up here. If you're not, to know, because I don't know what time. And typically Nick fluctuates between 8 p.m. Eastern and like 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes I've seen him. So get on our Substack if you want to get notifications of when he goes live, and our future live shows. You'll get notifications for clips, and when we begin to write op-eds, you'll also get that. But to the intro video. Always tell this story when I play this video. Although the video, I play it when I don't need extra time. Today I needed a little extra time in the beginning to finish being ready for the show. So since that's a little bit longer clip, and that's why I played it today. Although I played it, like I said, when I wasn't under duress, because it's a great video. Because when this white people talking to white people in this way is the only way to get rid of, or not get rid of, but to is the way to attack any sort of racism or oppression because of ethnicity. People who are the hated can't convince the people that hate us to not hate us. You get what I'm saying? So it's so weird to think that Black people are responsible for making this country anti-racist. That's the job of the people who aren't racist, but they're in those communities. So if you're in a white community that's racist and you're not, that's your job. And so on and so on. If you're in a Black community and there's racism against Latino community and you're anti-racist, you got to step on and call that out, which I've seen done in some Black communities. I wouldn't even say communities, in some Black people in the community I was in. So this is the way to do it. It has to be coming from a white person. And I love playing that video. But anyway, the reason I decided to do a "You Left Shit Out" episode stream today is because there's a lot of left out of this story that we're going to be covering today. And for those that don't know, so I started out with Straight Out of Politics was my first show title, and then kind of retired that show and began doing "You Left Shit Out," where I was kind of focused on media and what the Bernie Sanders industrial complex was on. So now, then I went back. So now I'm back to doing like Straight Out of Politics a lot. But today, because, and let me talk to you about the topics here, so you get what I'm saying. I'll put up the graphic. So the thumbnail graphic is Aaron Mate and Jimmy Dore catch Ryan Grimm lying. And if you subscribe to us on YouTube, we posted like the actual snapshot of the tweet, Ryan's tweet, of Aaron's tweet, of Jimmy's tweet. So you can go and see that. But we're going to be covering it anyway today. But it is there. Where we're becoming that. Anyway, the other stories that kind of related. But then the other big story is the backlash from AOC's viral military and recruitment event and her response. So she has response. We'll take a look at that garbage as complete nonsense. And easily literally just pulling up their graphic, their flyer for the event to just disprove what she's saying. So we'll cover that. And then a sort of satellite stories, meaning stories that kind of spun off stories I already talked about. So Ryan Grimm blocked RBN yesterday because of a tweet. The same tweet that we're going to talk about with Aaron Monte and Jimmy Dore. So we screenshot Aaron's tweet, how he was calling Ryan out, and we posted it. Because of that, he blocked us. Now, we were following each other. He was following the RBN account, and he was following me and each individual member. All through all this stuff we've been saying about each other. Right? So I guess this was a trigger point. And Aaron also ratios. I don't think Jimmy did, but he was close. It's like 10 away or something like that. But that's the reason for the graphic. And then we'll also get into the reality of Marianne Williamson with Sam Seder. Sam Seder finally talks about Marianne Williamson because he had to say something. And you notice a lot in the professional managerial class, the Bernie Sanders industrial complex specifically, are dragging their feet about talking about Marianne Williamson. We did a different segment where the leftist mafia covered Marianne Williamson, and the person was like, "Hey, what do you think of Marianne Williamson?" There's a caller that wants to, or a person who wrote in who wants us to talk about Marianne Williamson, and they all play hot potato. It was like, "Oh, I don't want to start. There's this not really want to full throat endorse her or outright just say they're not supporting her. So we'll talk about Sam Seder's opinion, which is not good for the Marianne Williamson camp. So she doesn't have the radical left, which would be like us, like the Convo Couch. She doesn't have the liberal progressives or liberals. That's the David Pakman. He already says she's nutty. This is his work. I'm paraphrasing nutty, but he says he calls her the crystal ball lady and said some other things, but doesn't have that camp. Of course, you don't have the Biden supporters, the so-called progressive Biden supporters. And then you kind of have this sort of lazy, I'll support her. Yeah, kind of response from the pseudo left, NATO left, Bernie Sanders industrial complex. So not sure how her candidacy is going to stand with that type of support. And then RBN goes on Rising. So Sabby went on Rising today. We'll cover that. I think we'll start with the Marianne Williamson video, but or maybe the Ryan ratio. Yeah, let's start with the Ryan ratio. Sabby went on Rising, on the Heels Rising, and with Robbie and Brianna, and she talked about AOC. So of course we're going to be covering that. So, but we're going to start with the tweet, and we're going to start with I guess I can go from here. Maybe I can do it from here. Y'all try it. Anyway, yeah, so let's go to the community tab and let's go to the tweet. Actually, no, because I have to show you what people said. Anyway, so that's the story I'm going to start with. Let's do some announcements first and do some comment checking. I'll check your comments right now. Let's see what everybody's are talking about before we get started in this discussion here. This is going to be a doozy. It's hard for me to watch AOC confessional videos. I call them that. When something happens, she did this for the railroad strike when she got the relational harm comment. So we'll copy it. She does. Here goes the first comment. Sabby, this is not the first comment. This is the first one I'm putting up. It's not the first one of the day. It's actually the latest one. Sabby needs to debate AOC. I hope she gets to do that. It looks like she could be possibly leveraging for that. When we go to the video, you'll see how she kind of maybe subconsciously basically says, yeah, AOC won't debate anybody or talk to anybody like us. So absolutely. Shama Sawat all day, absolutely. Scam Cedar. The names people come with, the playoff names that people come with. Knicks on tonight, F Funk. I think that's what that says. Oh no. Is RBN in line to get a Grimm job? Maybe. Yes, he is. He is absolutely a coward. So he blocked us, and then when we called it out, he unblocked us. So either one of two things happened. Either he blocked us, and then he started to hear people make comments about him blocking us, and he just said, forget it, I'll unblock it so I don't have to deal with this. Or we happened to catch him literally in the middle of him shadow ban, or what is it called? Soft blocking us, where he blocks us and then unblocks us so that we're both not following each other. But literally we have the screenshot. So that's the two things. Either he's backtracking, or we literally happened to catch the very 10 seconds where he was going block to unblock. Whatever choice, we got it. A snapshot of it. Let's go to some more comments here. Let's see. Oh, I see there's a provocateur in the comments, but I also see that provocateur is being handled. So have a great community here. I'll start with this comment. I'll end here and I'll get into the topic now because this is a great comment. This brother right here makes me less ashamed to be white. I'm laughing because it's a joke. You shouldn't be ashamed to be white. You yourself, you're ashamed of a human treating another human. So I'm ashamed of what slave owners did to enslaved people too, because you should be ashamed as a human. But I wouldn't necessarily say that. I thought it was funny. But let's get into some of. Oh, actually, I forgot to do some more announcements. I'm supposed to do this every time. We are doing a labor fundraiser. You see the great graphics and the video. Actually, maybe I should show you the video that Aaron made. No, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna show you the video with the sound one of these times where I don't care if the video gets taken down. But I want this video to stand because it's important on what we're talking about with AOC and Marianne Williamson. So, but she came up with this great video that shows the police killing kids. It shows the epidemic. I'm sorry, it doesn't show that. It shows the epidemic. It illustrates the epidemic of police murdering kids. And let me see if I can find it. I will have to scroll through a lot here, but we're still in the introduction here, so that's not the one. These are the Marianne Williamson video. Okay, here it goes right here. So I'm gonna play it for you without the sound, and you'll see even visually the story is told. This is a great video, so support. Let me pause it first because I don't want the sound because the song is called "Cops Shot the Kid." It's a Nas video, so I know YouTube will readily pick it up. But when I say support our labor fund, this is the type of work that you're supporting. This is the type of work that one of our employees, or our current employee, Aaron, does. So on Venmo, you can send any donations to Revolutionary Blackout. If you want rather GoFundMe, email us and we'll email you our GoFundMe account. In the subject line, just make sure you put RBN Labor Fundraiser. We're trying to reach a goal of $1,000. But let's watch this awesome video. Check this out. What is this? Let's watch this awesome video that Aaron made. I'm telling you, the story is told without even listening to the sound, but the sound does obviously makes it better. But watch this. Let's keep no sound. No sound. I'll duck out. So she basically breaks it down where she's showing the actual cop that murdered the actual victim on the right. And in some cases is multiple police officers, 2 or 3, or in some cases 4. This cop shot 2 people. And then she has some of the footage of the person. And then she has some white kids, this young, beautiful lady right here. That was 3 cops shown there, 2 cops shown there. And it goes from their regular face to the skeleton face. And then just showing footage. And this, in a lot of these cases, these is actual footage of the killing of the person, like that there. So if you follow us on YouTube, and this one has the 4 cops. This is, and it shows the footage right there. You can see. So if you follow us on YouTube, you can go and watch the entire sound. And I'll play it on the stream where, it doesn't matter as much that we. Maybe I'll just do a separate stream where I'm just going to play the video and then I'll end the stream like that, and we'll do something like that. So, but it's a great video. If you're on Twitter, go there. We're going to eventually post it to Instagram. Sometimes they do catch the song. Sometimes they let it play, but sometimes they do catch it. So we may roll into that. We will post it to our TikTok once we get that back up. And then there's other videos that we're working on where we're combining the project we're working on that this is part of. This is 5 cops that murdered him. The part that we're trying to marry is music, hip hop music in particular, with activism, and mesh that together. And it's conscious hip hop music. And this song is talking about cop shot the kid, and that's what it's talking about. So support the work, and I'll get back on the screen now as it's going to be ending soon. But if you are able to support the fundraiser, please do. Here is where you can send the funds. Again, just an awesome video by Aaron, our editor. So thanks a lot there. Oh, you can also we still have our mutual aid forever account on Cash App. If you would rather send it on Cash App, instead of going through GoFundMe, you can do that also. All right, so we're up to 280 or so people watching. Let's get to 250 likes. We're currently at 137, so that's 115 more people. 115 more of you who are currently watching right now. Hit that like button. That'll get us to the goal of 250 so we can get some more people in here. Now, we had 32,200. We have crossed. Thank you for those recently subscribed. And I'll open it up, actually. Let me open the chat up. Typically, I like my streams to be where it's actually it's already open. So typically I like my streams just to be subscribers only, but this one we want this to be open to everybody. We also offer RBN memberships now, so you can check that out if you like. And we have a lot of members here today. I can see you. For us, you have a little different color that tells us that you're a member. So that's awesome. Here's our website. Check that out. Revolutionary Blackout Network. We do have to update it with the latest footage of Rome works on the computer, the RBN library in Detroit that he is working on and fundraising for. But check out our website. You can check out that along with other pictures of some community work, our profiles, links to our other social media, all that stuff you can find on our website. And again, here is our email. All right, now let's get back into the program here. And like I said, what I want to start with, let's go to my bookmarks. What I want to start with is the Ryan Grimm Ryan Grimm tweet. So let's start with the tweet, and then we'll get into the responses. This is where it begins. And let me get the title up here. Ryan Grimm caught lying. Oops. I don't know how I misspelled that. There we go. All right, so let's put this up here. And Aaron, you can begin here. Ryan Grimm caught lying by Aaron Mate, and he points this out and ratios Ryan. And then, of course, Jimmy Dore sees this and also retweets it, and he's nearly ratioing him. We'll look at the update, but let's start with the tweet. And here is the initial tweet. I'll blow it up even more because I like people to be able to see it on their phones, the actual wording. So here's Ryan Grimm, and here's his tweet. So let's analyze his tweet here. Let me see how it looks on the screen for everybody. I think we could take this down and maybe do this. Give it even a bigger look. So let's start here. And again, 250 is a target. Let's hit that like button. Ryan Grimm tweets out this. The Intercept has appointed an inaugural CEO, and we're announcing a new board of directors. We're going fully independent. It's a gamble, and we'll be relying on readers to support what we do. Well, isn't that fantastic? Because I hear the Intercept gets a lot of criticism because a billionaire, a tech billionaire, or let's just say a billionaire owns the Intercept or is the major funder of the Intercept. And everybody knows that the Intercept is likely an intelligence cutout. Aaron Good, the writer of many books, has been on here, been on the summit. Nick has had him on multiple times here where he talks about this on video. And I think I did a segment where I used the video. The Intercept is likely an intelligence cutout. So Ryan Grimm knows that the Intercept has a bad reputation, at least in some left communities. He knows that. So what he's attempting to do here is dress up whatever this business change, this shuffling they're doing over at the Intercept, dress it up as somehow going independent. But he's counting on people not knowing details about what he's talking about. So you go, oh, whoa, isn't this great? So let's see what some of the reaction he got, some of the positive reaction. Let's see if some of the positive. So he obviously got some positive reaction because 580 people liked it. 580. Wow, intercept. They're finally going, they're finally going into the good side. Finally leaving the dark side, going to the good side. Trying to whitewash the intercept. Now, let's go to, actually, let's stay here and let's just scroll down. Where is Aaron's tweet here? Here goes Aaron. Aaron replies here, and let's scroll, or I'm sorry, let's blow up his tweet. And here is Aaron's response to the same thing. Aaron, who was a reporter, either knew this information or took a quick second to look up what Ryan was saying and found out this is what actually is happening here. This post says that the Intercept's inaugural CEO comes from a group funded by its owner and a mid-year. Is that how you say it? A mid-year? Mid-year? As do the two new members of the board of directors. So let's pause here. So Aaron points out this gimmick you're trying to run, Ryan, where you're trying to portray that you are somehow independent now or going independent, and it's a gamble. Really? Because the current owner, a group that he funds, that CEO came out of, and two of the board members that you're claiming are independent, yet you're saying that the Intercept is going fully, and he puts in quotes, fully independent from mid-year. Is that how you say it? Mid-year? With a question mark, which Ryan Grimm has to now, with his tail between his legs, come back, and because he knows he's been called out, or at least this is another point that's great, he's getting ratio. This is almost twice the amount of likes by Aaron right here. What he does is, because somebody else brings up this point, and I'll click on this one, all he does is takes a screenshot and replies to Aaron, because he doesn't want to get in the back and forth with Aaron. So he just takes what he said to the other person, screenshots it, and puts it as a response to Aaron. So let's read what he says. That's fair, though I wouldn't call that dependent either. So Ryan, isn't this him admitting that this was a flip of the coin and you chose to go with the one that pretends you're independent? Because him saying that's fair is saying that is a good point. There is no pushback on that because it's a fact. Though I wouldn't call that dependent either. The billionaire, I won't say his name and keep butchering it, will probably, this is where he throws his opinion in, probably represent less than 10% of giving after the drawdown. This is the part is not his opinion. He must be getting that number from somewhere. So let's click on that tweet here so we can see what the other person, who was he responding to when he made this right here. This person says, I don't know if I called having a senior advisor to the billionaire on the board being fully independent. And he has a graphic. Let's read. Pat is a managing director of the billionaire group and a senior advisor to the philanthropist Pierre and a Pam and a oh, I'm sorry. That's the married couple. I was reading that wrong. So let me read that again. I butchered that. Pat is a managing director. I'm assuming Pat is the name of the person they're referring to as the CEO or one of the board members. Pat is a managing director of the billionaires group. How close do you think that person is? He is the managing director, the top guy running the billionaires' own group, and a senior advisor to the Pierre and Pam. I'll call him by his first name. The billionaire's name is Pierre and his wife Pam. Deeply commit. Oh, sorry. So that's the receipt on there, and then so he has to acknowledge it, of course, and that's where we see this. Now, let me see. I won't go into other people's reply because I want to follow. I want you to follow the story. Let's zoom out a little bit. So we show you that you see where Aaron Mate ratios Ryan for trying to, lie to people pretty much. Hang on a second here. Oh, okay. So I didn't see this. This is from something else. Oh, he replies here with something else. So let's see so you see how Ryan replied with this response, and then Aaron replies to that. Let's just see what he says. He says, in other words, T.I. is not going fully independent. The Intercept won't be holding my breath for coverage of stories like the OPCW scandal or Pierre, the billionaire scam network of disinformation watchdogs. And then he quote tweets what he's talking about. Pretty impressive how many scams neocon disinformation project Intercept owner Pierre is behind. The source for AP's Russiagate propaganda is Reset, a London-based nonprofit that studies social media impact on democracy. Reset is funded by Pierre the billionaire. So if you didn't follow the story, the Intercept guy, the one who owns this, he funded the group that's behind the story. Remember the AP story we covered where they're blaming Russia and Russia Twitter accounts and Russia social media accounts for the Ohio derailment? Remember we covered that? The billionaire that owns Intercept is the one who funded that group that put that out. That's what Aaron is pointing out here. And so he's saying, let me read it again. In other words, the Intercept is not going fully independent. Won't be holding my breath for coverage of stories like the OPCW scandal or Pierre the billionaire scandal network of disinformation watchdogs. And Indie News just says this. Ryan is nowhere to be found, okay? Ryan is nowhere to be found. So that's what we're in with the thread. That was an interesting thread for me, at least. I don't know if those that are reading or watching this thought it was interesting. I thought that was an interesting thread. So this is a sham. This is a joke. You see how Ryan is here not to divulge truth? Ryan is not here to divulge truth. Ryan is not here to report on truth. Ryan is here to confuse. He is a chaos agent meant to muddle the waters, to confuse. Because if you read through this thread, and we just did, this, you shouldn't even put this tweet out. You shouldn't even put this tweet out. And I'll go to some other responses before we move on to the next story here, because I said I would show you Jimmy Dore, and then I'll show you our account. Here is just Jimmy just tweeting it out. And Jimmy is 30 behind. Jimmy is 30 people behind ratio on him. And all he does is screenshots what Aaron said and then repost the intercept, Ryan's tweet. So that's Jimmy's quote tweet. And then that's for the next story. Here is the tweet. So now let's kind of go into the next story because it's related to this story, and I don't want to, break this up. So the previous story that I'm ending here, and we can end this here, Aaron, for this first story. And we're going to begin with the new title. Ryan Grimm blocks RBN. So Ryan Grimm blocks RBN. We do the same thing that Jimmy Dore does. Same exact thing. Ryan Grimm, excuse me, and let me blow this up and I'll read it. Now, this is the RBN account. Just saying the same thing. Ryan Grimm continues his lies for the ruling class. One short to the point line. Aaron calls out his BS. So the entire tweet is 1.5 lines, or 2 lines. Let's just call it 2. Tag him. Screenshot the same post that Jimmy Dore did, and that's it. Didn't get a great amount of likes. Got only about 244 retweets. This must have triggered Ryan, because literally before this tweet, I put this tweet out. I logged into the account and put this tweet out. He was following us, and we were following him, because I went to his account and highlighted his name and saw that we were following. And you can see. So this is the tweet that triggered him to block us. Why would that be? What are we saying here in the tweet that triggers him so much? Ryan Grimm continues his lies for the ruling class. Now, we've tweeted out much more aggressive things than this about Ryan Grimm, including calling him out of his name, which I endorse for anyone who's representing the ruling class. Make them feel terrible. But we didn't do that here. So, like I said earlier in the intro, either what happened was, actually, let me continue with the story because I'm jumping the gun here. So we did that, and then now let me go here. Let's find. So he blocks us, and I think, where did I put the block message? I think the block message might be here. Hold on, everybody. Oh, you know what? No, I'm not gonna go into messages. I could go there and get it quicker, but I'm not gonna scroll through messages right now. So let's scroll through here and get to the tweet here. I think it's before these cop videos here, or the cop shot the kid video. Yeah, here it goes, right here. I knew it was. So here is what resulted in us calling him out. Or that tweet. I guess that's a call out. Yes. We're pointing out Aaron's call out is how I would more accurately describe it. So this is just Rome and Nick saying, oh, he blocked me too, he blocked me. Then he says, None of you are blocked. What are you talking about? I blocked whatever account did that OB. It trolls and tags me too much. But if that bothers you, I'll unblock it and mute it. Now, the last time we tagged Ryan, a month ago, maybe? I don't think I've covered Ryan in a month, have I? Well, anyway, here's the story. We can end it here. No need to keep prolonging this. This guy's a clown, and he can't handle being called out for his bullshit. He's a clown, and he is an establishment hack who was called out for his lying, and hates it. He hates the fact that he calls people trolls that point out the fact that he is terrible. I guess if you don't want to troll, don't be terrible. How about that? Isn't that a better strategy? If you don't want trolls or so-called trolls, don't be terrible. That works. Lying ass motherfucker, man. He is terrible, that guy. Is fucking terrible. All right, so let's now get to the next story. And the next story is obviously now let's do the Marianne Williamson. I was afraid that once I get to the AOC story, I may not be able to get to anything else because the AOC story is going to take a long time. There's a lot to say. When we get to her video, there's no way. If you haven't, I hope some of you haven't seen the video so I can get your raw reaction to her absolutely disgusting video that she puts out. And you notice that she puts it out on Instagram. Instagram, which I label because my wife, I label it. My wife always says, "Why are you not on Instagram?" And I'm like, "Cause that's liberal heaven, and I'm good." So that's where she goes to respond to a Twitter, because what she's referring to in the video is about Twitter, but then she goes to Instagram to respond to it and don't even put that video. That tells you what she's doing. She's pandering to a base for sympathy. But quickly, a couple of quick intermission announcement in between stories. 260 likes is where we're at. We hit 375 people watching. So let's do another 100. Let's get to 360. 100 people hit that like button. Let's get to 360 likes. That should jump about, get us over to about 400 people watching. Also, we have memberships if you didn't know, RBN YouTube memberships, or if you just rather to send your money to Patreon and support us that way, it's scrolling there at the bottom, and that is actually the best way to do it, to support us. Substack, if you want to get notifications when we go live, Substack is where you want to join. It doubles as our mailing list, so if we need to notify you of anything, any future actions, and that's actually the way we're going to do it. It's going to be through Discord or through our Substack. So if you're want to be a part of joining any action on the ground in different areas, it could be in your area. That's another reason to join our Substack. And another bonus for joining our Substack, you do get the link to our Discord, so you can join our Discord community also. So thank you for that. Liking the video to 360. Is that right? Yeah, 360. And now let's get into the first video clip that we're going to be analyzing today. And this first one is the reality of the Marianne Williamson campaign. And this is basically Sam Seder's view on the Marianne Williamson campaign. And like I said before in the intro, it is not.
My name's Elena. I'm calling from Virginia, Alexandria. So right south.
It is not good. But yeah, so here is Sam Seder on Marianne. All right, we can start here, Aaron. So, like I said earlier in the intro, Marianne Williamson is not getting the support of the far left. They would call us, like RBN would call us, or Convo Couch, the far left, or radical left. Not getting support from us. Marianne Williamson is also not getting support from the progressives, the liberal sort of people who call themselves progressives, maybe, but they're really just liberals. Not getting support from people like that, like a David Pakman. He's already came out and called her the Crystal Lady. With the very soft support that she's getting from so-called the NATO left, the Bernie Sanders industrial complex, I just don't see how she's going to survive. And Sam Seder is part of that Bernie Sanders industrial complex. And it's this type of support that we're going to see in this video that she has from the NATO left that it's just not going to sustain her candidacy. So where is her support coming from?
My name's Elena. I'm calling from Virginia, Alexandria. So right south of DC, if you know the area.
A little bit. What's on your mind, Elena?
Well, I really wanted to talk about Marianne Williamson. I wanted to listen a bit more deeply what your thoughts are on her. And start that conversation.
I mean, to be totally honest, I don't have any deep thoughts on her. There are some things that I've heard her say that I don't necessarily agree with. There's some things, there are some positions that she has I do agree with. I tend not to be, as a person, some of her spiritual stuff doesn't necessarily resonate with me, but I don't necessarily have a problem with it. It's just my person.
So Sam also brings up the same point that David Pakman brings up, but David kind of goes a little bit harder at it and brings up examples. And he just kind of says, I'm not really for that. And I kind of do see the audience of the majority report is more like the audience of David Pakman. I see a lot of overlap with them. I don't necessarily see the same overlap necessarily with TYT, but maybe. But let's listen more to what he says.
Personality, but my feeling is more generic about her than that. Or my position, which is we do need someone who is going to be articulating a more progressive view than Joe Biden represents in the primary. And I honestly don't know who that person is going to be. And I don't even know necessarily who I'd want it to be. She would not be my first choice for those.
This is the point that I'm making. It's like, she's there. She don't want to, I'll do it. And Humanist Report kind of had that. Maybe I'll double back and play that leftist mafia video. Yeah, I think it'll be good to insert it in this segment. And it's just a very soft, like very fragile support. Even Mike from the Humanist Report in the video I'll show you says, if there's somebody to the left of Marianne, then I'll support that person. So it's a very like a meh kind of support from the NATO left, the Bernie and Sanders industrial complex.
Those reasons, but we need somebody And so I'm certainly supportive of the idea that she would run in a primary. I am these days pretty much every primary, all primaries are good.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I hear you. You know, the problem that I have, I think a little bit of what the media, you can say, you know, the mainstream media and also independent media, is that they're really harping hard on the whole spirituality thing. And I feel really, frankly, that it's almost a way of kind of defanging people that actually have very...
They're really harping on her career. I mean, I just thought of that because I'm like, well, what is that to Marianne Williamson? What is those things, the spirituality? What is spirituality to her life? Is it that she practices it and she has another job? No, this is her entire career. It'd be like somebody who's an attorney running for an office and not talking about them as a lawyer. So just the phrasing of harping on, you mean harping on their career? To me, that sort of makes sense.
Radical and progressive positions. You know, I don't want to echo her too much, but, you know, thinking of how Martin Luther King is kind of portrayed as, you know, this good-hearted.
Professional managerial class, man. So, Martin Luther King, one, I would say a spiritual leader in the way that Marianne Williamson is not the same thing as a Christian pastor, like a religious, you know, like pastor of a congregation. Like, I'm not sure I would necessarily equate that. But this is not a comparison because people knew Martin Luther King because of his activism. They didn't know him nationally, regionally. I'm not talking about just his congregation. They didn't know him as a pastor first. They knew him as the activist first. The world knows Marianne Williamson as the spiritual leader first. And there's a lot of other differences, but I'll let the video play more before I say some more.
A visionary, you know, loving Baptist minister who just wanted nothing more than equal treatment of African Americans, you know, and history tends to whitewash the fact that he was a socialist. You know, he espoused all these things about changing the economic system, you know, actually recognizing that white Americans were also very poor, even, you know, in some case even more poor, and that it required an entire kind of systemic change. And, you know, I just worry that the conversation has kind of become, you know, entirely, not my dog, there's a dog outside, you know, kind of overrun with like, oh, you know, voodoo, you know.
This is a funny comment. This caller sounds like Marianne Williamson. That is funny. All right, back to the video.
Well, I mean, to be honest,
I just want to jump in. I want to say, like, the thing is like, I it's not the spiritual, it's just idealistic. Like, regardless of the content of the spiritualism, it's sort of an idealistic thing. Like MLK, like, in addition to being more of a socialist than I think Marianne Williamson is, which isn't to insult Marianne Williamson, it's just like MLK was like more about that. Like MLK had a big coalition behind him. So that, to me, it's like, I think we like primary should be a place to engage on ideas, but really it's not super interesting until like when Bernie got like the nurses union and different groups like that to get behind him. Then it's actually like more than just a sort of a discourse thing.
And here's the thing is that like I tend to agree with your assessment of how the media is treating her, but I mean, that on some level is also why like she's not necessarily my preferred candidate, because I also understand she's not going to win. She doesn't have a movement behind her. She has no.
And this is the thing. This is what the professional managerial class, specifically the Bernie Sanders industrial complex, this is what they are saying publicly on video. Rational National, David with the Rational National said this. Mike Figueroa said this. They all are saying this. Get this straight, everybody. Don't get it twisted. She's not going to beat Joe Biden. They all are saying this. So then it begs the question, is the working class supposed to get behind something that you don't even believe is even going to do anything? That's what we're supposed to do? We're supposed to devote our time and energy and resources and money to this candidacy where the people who are saying they would be for her are saying there's no way she's going to win. RBN is saying no more to that.
Infrastructure, and it's a completely different animal. She is running like an issue campaign. I don't know what that issue is going to be, but it is what Bernie essentially tried to do in 2016, which is he was just running to raise certain issues. In that campaign, it was really money in our politics and the power of essentially the 1%. And she's not the best person to do that because of the fact that she has this baggage about spirituality. Yes, it would be nice if our media did not use whatever they can to discredit left perspectives, but they're going to. And in a perfect world, I'd rather not spend the time lamenting on the ease in which they're able to dismiss, some of her ideas, which I am supportive of. In a perfect world, that would be great if that didn't exist, but it does. And so, particularly when we're running an issue campaign or like essentially a messaging campaign, the messenger becomes, important in that respect. But yeah, I share your lament, but I wouldn't spend too much time on it.
And that's the point that Nick also makes. If you're acknowledging that you're not going to win, and this is simply a messaging campaign, one, why are we picking Marianne Williamson to do that? Like, why? And two, why are we going through the Democratic Party? Why aren't we building up a third party? Bernie Sanders industrial complex? Why aren't we using that energy? You don't really even like her. Like, you notice how they're not doing anything in lieu of a Bernie Sanders candidacy? No organizing. How serious are these people who claim to overlap with our values, or at least what we want to do, the majority of, or 80, 90%? Let's continue with Sam.
Yeah, well, everything you were saying about Bernie Sanders, it is something that she has echoed. It's one thing that I've admired from her, and I guess maybe this time around, is that she's really very clear on making a campaign focused on the economic, the economic position. She doesn't delve into just for context, I just want to say, I'm an atheist. Like, I am a staunch atheist. Like, just the mere mention of God makes me break out in hives.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't. And I'm not an atheist. I'm just saying, anytime says like you're on talking about her spirituality, so now you need to project how much, oh, I'm an atheist so bad, guys, and I'm still, that's what you're trying to do. No, I'm good. I'm good. So let's continue.
But there were things that she said, you know, that even to me, you know, someone that is not really in that world, it spoke to me, you know, and
well, maybe she'll be able to resonate. I mean, like, you know, I'm not discounting your perspective. Maybe that will resonate with people. I mean, you know, the tricky part is to assume that the media is going to ignore those things. Like, why do we know her name?
yeah, you know, the thing, she did take a path to kind of, I guess, you know, espouse universal truths through a more spiritual route. Some people take the political route, you know, or the activist route. She felt more comfortable speaking in a more.
I'm not denigrating it. I'm just saying that, like, that comes with a certain amount of baggage. Look, I didn't like anything about Hillary Clinton, you know, not anything. There were a lot of things I did not like about Hillary Clinton's politics, but it was also undeniable. One of the things that made her a flawed candidate, regardless of whether you supported her platform or her politics or whatever, one of the things that made her a flawed candidate, just as a pure assessment as a product within like the American political system, is that there had been a cottage industry built around tearing her down and creating you know, fictions about her, ones that weren't even the issues that I had with her politics. And that's just a reality. It's just a reality. When you're looking for a standard bearer, you can't go back in time and fix certain things. You're looking for the best one you can in that moment. And right now, you know, Marianne Williamson is it. There could be somebody else who comes into the race who, you know, you may think is a better standard bearer for those issues. I may think is a better standard, you know, bearer for those issues. We'll see.
This is where they say again, and this is Sam Seder's way of saying, if somebody else better comes in the race I like, I'm picking them. Anyway, let's continue. I guess so. Waiting for the pin to drop.
So I'm just curious, if it really came down, let's just say, you know, in a fantastical world where Marianne Williamson and Joe Biden were really like the only two options, you know, equal influencer, I'm not sure. It was down to those two, and she actually had a shot. Who would you actually vote for? I'm just curious.
I hate when this is done this way. And they do that for the lesser of two evil. I hate when this is done. Let's just say in a fantastic, what does that prove? How does that prove your point to say in a magical world far, far, far away, if Marianne Williamson, like, what does that do for your point? How does that prove your point? I'm just saying, how does it prove your point to say, in a parallel universe, if it was only Marianne Williamson,
you had a shot at what, winning the primary?
Yes.
Or what about the general?
You mean for the presidency? Like,
yeah.
To become president? You know, I would want Marianne Williamson.
No, I'm asking you, tell me that you're giving me a hypothetical where she has a chance to win the primary. Does she also, in this hypothetical, have a legitimate chance to win the general election?
Yes, I mean, with her attributes and her
if there's a candidate whose policies I like better, who has a, you know, an obvious ability to win in a general election, then yeah, I would be probably supportive of her. But but that's also like, if I had wings, could I fly? I'm not going to jump off a building right now to test that theory.
So he's saying, I'm not about to test the theory of Marianne Williamson being president. Do you understand how he used an analogy to say that? Because he's basically saying, yeah, you asked me about, what would happen in a parallel universe, but, also if I had wings, I would fly, but I'm not about to test that theory. I'm not about to test the theory of Marianne Williamson winning. Because if I had wings, I could fly in that same parallel universe. But back here in reality, I'm not testing that. I'm not testing that theory. Just like I'm not testing the theory of Marianne Williamson. And listen to the caller's response.
No, I understand, but you see how it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy here, right? How
No, it's not a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not a self-fulfilling prophecy. No, I'm sorry. I don't accept that.
No.
I am not capable of willing 100 million people to do something.
Or Bernie would have won.
Or Bernie would have won.
No, of course. I understand. I mean, we're all stuck in the same.
I guarantee you that.
I don't know. This has to be like a Marianne Williamson caller. Maybe this was the only way for her to get an interview with Sam Seder. Because somebody keeps pointing out, this is Marianne Williamson on the call. So let's go with that comedic line. Maybe it is her. And this is the only way she can get an interview with Sam Seder. Because, was she interviewed on the show? Maybe she was interviewed. Was it Emma and Sam in that? Maybe I'll do a search and see if I can find it. But very funny. And I think, no, let's listen some more. And then I'll play briefly so you can see Rational National Humanism Report talking the same sort of way about Marianne Williamson.
When Marianne Williamson ends her campaign, there will be at least 150 million voters who have absolutely never heard her name.
Yeah, and I think that's a shame.
So let's understand the context. How many people voted in the last election? I think somewhere around, he said like 160, 170 million. Somebody in the comments, if you know. How many millions of people voted last time? He's saying, I think it was like 170 million, wasn't it? He said 150 million of those voters won't even know who she is, who would have ever heard from her. Actually, let's do this. Okay, so let's see. Number of votes. Let me see if I can get a quick number here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, 81 million.
I mean, I'm not.
Let me stop that. I forgot I can control it with my earpiece. So, it looks like 81 million for Joe Biden and 74 million. So that's roughly 155 million. So Sam Seder is saying of the 155 million, 150 million will never have even heard of Marianne Williamson. That is pretty sad. That's something like 98%.
When Marianne Williamson ends her campaign, there will be at least 150 million voters who have absolutely never heard her name.
Yeah, and I think that's a shame.
I mean, I'm not. It may very well be a shame, but this is, that is a problem. Now, there may be value in those 50 million people having heard what she said in a vigorous primary. And so, in that respect, I think there could be value in it. But we have to be understand that when we're being aspirational, we're being aspirational. And when we're making an assessment, that we have the ability to make an assessment. And so, it doesn't matter. What I'm telling you is it doesn't matter whether, I want to vote for Marianne Williamson more than Joe Biden. I live in New York, and that makes it much easier for me to take votes that I don't think are going to empower Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump. What's important is that people remember what voting is.
Fear voting.
Voting is a way to get the most desirable outcome you can. That is possible. That's all it is. And in a primary, the calculations are a little bit different than they are in a general election. So appreciate the call.
Just not what a supporter of Marianne Williamson was looking to hear. What I wondered, though, if Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball and Brianna Joy Gray, who were kind of the front runners of supporters in media in the Bernie Sanders industrial complex, kind of the front runners, I wonder if they had in their calculations that they would pick off some of these other people a part of the Bernie Sanders establishment, like the David Packmans, the Sam Cedars, the Emmas, the Cenk Ugerts. I wonder if in their calculation did they talk about some support at least coming from half of these people, or did they think they would lose all of them? And let's play another two. This is a very short video because in the beginning, they start to talk about it. And now I alluded to this earlier in how this is the type of support she's getting from the managerial class, the professional managerial class, the people who are part of the Bernie Sanders industrial complex. It's a kind of hot potato I supporter. And here it goes.
Go first.
So do I.
So that laughter is not good. And when you hear the question they ask here. So let's listen, and then we'll close out this segment and get to the AOC segment.
On Marianne Williamson, a lot of questions.
I want Olay to go first.
Marianne
So do I.
I saw that face.
I want to set the tempo. Set the tempo.
I ain't
Come on.
got nothing to say. Y'all have about that. Knock yourselves out.
That is not a vote of confidence. Could you imagine, and I've said this before, could you imagine somebody coming, sending in, they want us to hear us talk about Bernie Sanders and that being the reaction? Even AOC, I can't even imagine the reaction being that. But this, like I said, is the response she's getting from the NATO left, the boutique left, the Bernie Sanders industrial complex left, is this reaction. Who's supporting her then? So let's listen, and then listen to Rational National, how he right off the bat tells you, don't get out your mind that she's going to win.
So I have a bigger breakdown on my channel this week, my first video on it. Basically, I don't know. Point is, she's not going to defeat Biden for the nomination. Just to quickly clear anybody that thinks that is a possibility.
That's not the point.
It's not like Bernie Sanders. It's not like Donald Trump. Voters on the right vote because of emotion, that kind of thing. Democratic voters vote usually based on media narratives, based on what's comfortable, based on who they're told is electable. That's not Marianne Williamson. We're talking about a primary. We're talking about an incumbency in Joe Biden. So it's not like 2016. Williamson's not in government. So anyways, she's not going to be Biden for various reasons. Watch my video for more on that. In terms of, whether this is
you hear that? That's the Rational National. Now let's fast forward to Mike. Let's see if it plays actually. It may not. Let's refresh, and then we'll play Mike and end it there. Actually, maybe we should play Matt Bender. Maybe we should play Matt because his response is a little bit more colorful, let's just say. And let's see if I can get to it.
Mary,
There grab right-wing voters is what
an incumbent president, she has a near zero chance of winning. I don't want people to get their
here
hopes.
is Humanist reports.
There's no
the same
downsides
thing
to her
that she has
running.
no
I think
chance
that
of
for the
winning.
left, there's only positives. I'm going to be voting for her in a primary. Like, why not? I don't want people to get their hopes up and think that there could be like another Bernie Sanders situation, because as David said, like, this is a primary challenger to an incumbent president. She has a near zero chance of winning. So best case scenario, she can kind of exert pressure on Biden or elevate the salience of particular issues. And that does matter. Like, that's not insignificant. I think that does matter. But in terms of like, there's like this sub conversation going on.
So you hear him. Now, I'm going to try to fast forward again and see if it'll let me without buffering. All right, so I think I've reached it. Let me see if it works. It does not. So I'll refresh it so you can hear this last one. And Twitter sometimes does this. It was doing it. Sabby was here doing the RBN roundtable, or what we call it now, RBN Live on Tuesdays. Get that to her too. So let me see if I can find the spot.
So do I.
Let me see if I can find a spot here.
She's talking about these issues, like she's talking about Medicare for all and healthcare. I love that. I value that. So if she brings that to the table and gets Biden to maybe do better, which probably not, but Biden ran away from a public option. So because it's like we're stretched thin, right? There's other members of Congress that we want to see get elected, or potential members of Congress that we want to see get elected. So,
all right, I'll let it play here, and it's
going to
go into Matt's
your hopes up.
Comment.
It's just this is about
that's going to cover rational,
period.
National.
End of story.
That's you're all being very nice. Listen, I think she, as a person who's put herself out there, she seems like she believes what she says, and she seems like a very nice individual. But this run, what's behind it? Nothing. There's nothing behind it. I'm not going to tell someone not to run. Anyone who wants to run should run. But the whole point of pushing someone, if you're running a campaign, even if the point is you're going to lose, but to push someone, there's supposed to be a movement behind you. That's why Bernie's campaign was so successful. That's why those left-wing campaigns that just try to push someone towards the left are more successful, because there's some sort of movement behind them, or the individual is a well-respected, long-time person within the scene, the leftist movement. She's just not that. There's nothing behind her. The idea that she's going to push Biden anywhere is, and I say this as someone who thinks she's nice, it's laughable. It's laughable.
That is actually a quote from us. We said the exact same thing. It's laughable that she thinks, but we're saying it for a different reason. Her politics, or maybe this is why he's saying her politics doesn't allow her to push anybody as close as she is to Joe Biden left. She's too close to him in policy. She doesn't have the politics to push him left, or the temperament, as she has proven she's unwilling to call him out over and over. So we're going to cut it there for this segment. That is the Sam Seder on Marianne Williamson segment. And then I just gave you another receipt to show you Bernie Sanders' industrial complex is not down with the Marianne Williamson thing. So now let's get to the next topic, which will be the AOC story. And for those that didn't know, AOC had a recruit. I mean, we did a segment. I'll just do this way. We did a segment. AOC, let me add this in here. Military recruitment event goes viral. Now, I didn't even know it went viral like this. Like, I didn't know it went on Fox News. Yeah, Fox News. Democracy Now, major networks are covering this. So what we're gonna do? Oh my God. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with the Democracy Now video. I guess we'll start there. Yeah, let's start there. This is gonna hurt a little bit, especially when we get to her Instagram response, which is just total bonkers to me. But when we get to that, you'll see. Oops. Let me pause it and set it up a little bit better here. It's only about a two minute video, but it does go viral. I mean, it reaches Democracy Now! And Fox News. That's pretty viral. So, but let me make sure I don't miss anything. And I also want to shout out new member Lauren. Thank you, new member Lauren, for joining. And then this super chat, Sam won't bring up Medicare for all. Wonder why? You notice, yeah, they all, since they're piggybacking off of somebody to their right, or somebody who's not as good. So you have the squad who's piggybacking off of the imperialist Democratic Party leadership, and then you have the Bernie Sanders industrial complex who's piggybacking off of Bernie Sanders and all of his disciples, which is the AOC. And when the Democratic Party go right, everybody who's hanging on to somebody goes right, and that's essentially how it works. All right, so let's now actually, yeah, no, I don't need to include him. Anyway, let's go to this next story. I will shout out in between stories. I will shout this out and have a short announcement. Subscribe to our Substack if you haven't done so already. Our Substack is where you get notifications when we go live. Nick will be going live tonight, so if you get on our Substack now, you'll get that notification. I don't know the exact time. I don't see it posted yet, so I don't know what time that is. But if you're on a Substack, you will get that notification. We're at 380 likes right now. We got up to 475 people at a point. So let's get to 450. So 450, that's only about 70 people hitting the like button. So 70 people watching right now. If you haven't hit that like button, hit that like button. Let's get to 450 likes. Don't forget, we have memberships. We had a new member today, and then our website, revolutionaryblackoutnetwork.com. And let's see if there's any other. Let's see. Here is a super sticker. Thank you. Aberdeen71. Thank you for the super sticker. Always very generous with all of the RBN members streams. So we do notice you. Thank you for that. All right. So now let's get back into the story here. And here we go. Aaron, you can begin here. AOC military recruitment event goes viral, and then she finally replies with a BS response. Now, we had actually covered this. Was it 2 days ago? Yeah, 2 days ago on Monday. Nick and I covered it as it was like the day it happened. So yeah, the day before maybe. Was it Sunday? Yes, it was Sunday. We did do a stream on Sunday. So we covered this on Sunday, and it was going to be happening the next day. So we covered it on the 19th, and it happened on the 20th. Now, so just to recap, that first part. Oh, and actually I can show you. Let me, it's on Twitter. Where was that? Oh, I can go to my bookmarks. So actually, let's do that. So let's show you the actual graphic. Now, may have to do a little bit of scrolling here, will I? So this is other receipts we're going to be using for the story, but we're not ready for those yet. So just stand by for those. But here is the receipt I'm looking for. So this is what everybody's talking about here. I put it here so it'll open up like this. So this is what started it all, is this flyer right here, or graphic if you want to call it. Student Services Fair, hosted by Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So when they say, why do people think she hosted it? It says hosted by. It says hosted by on the graphic. And they say, what do you mean? This is a student fair. Why do you think it's a military recruitment center or event? Well, let's see. If it's a student fair, you're going to list some of the people that are going to be there at the student fair, right? You're going to list all the organizations, right? So people can get an idea of the variety you're going to have at this student fair. Let's read who's going to be there. Join to learn about the resources available to students through our district office. We will be joined by special guests from U.S. Navy Academy, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Military Academy, U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, U.S. Coast Guard Academy, U.S. Department of Education, as well as congressional interns. Now, if there's any other people that's going to be there at this student service event, why are just military people mentioned here? But they want to act like we're crazy. AOC, the professional managerial class. And this is what they do. They go, we're smart. We can just make up a story about this, and people who believe in them, who follow them, will reject logic and reason and accept what AOC says in response to this. She gets a backlash. Let me see if I have any other receipts saved here. And we covered it. We showed Nick's tweet. It went, did pretty good. 1,100. He calls out, this is another flyer, but the flyer says the same thing. And I'll read to you. Right down here, it says, we will be joined by special guests, the U.S. Navy, and it lists the same people in the same way. Right here. Nick posts that one. Comrade Misty, friend of the show, posts the same thing. AOC holding a military recruitment event. I didn't read Nick's. Anyone who still defends AOC at this point is suspect. Sabby Sab says AOC is trying to recruit Black and brown high school kids to join military. So much for being a democratic socialist. Is this your queen? Goes viral. 2,200 likes, and I didn't mention Comrade Misty's 5,500 likes. So I believe this is the tweet she's talking about when we get to her video, when she says a rumor was started by somebody. This is the first one, the people that went off. So this is the viral tweet that got even this event so well known all over Twitter. So remember, this is the tweet. So now let's go to the video. What do I have the full video here? I was just about to play that video. 1 second, yeah. And now I'm going to come back. This is some of the protests there, but let's go in order. This is some of the protests there. So now let's show her video. Oh, I have it here. So this is why. So let me bring it to the center screen and play it. One of the activists who has protested AOC
showed everything that went.
Transferred the Instagram video to YouTube, and that's Blue Moon Red Wine. So that's where we're getting this video that has been transferred to YouTube. So it was screenshot and put on YouTube, and let's watch. For me, this was excruciating to watch. Hearing a liar, and to me, in my opinion, not a person good at lying, trying to sell lies, it's painful for me. So let's listen to AOC and her excuses about this. And this is AOC's response.
Because people can just like politics is so crazy because people can just like wake up and make up whatever they want to say about you, and it'll be totally false, and people will just believe it, right? They'll just believe it. So today, someone made up a rumor that me, was hosting a military recruitment fair for high schoolers. Now, like, does that sound like something I would do? Like, no shade to anybody, but just me. Does that sound like something I would do? No? Then basic due diligence would mean ask a follow-up question, right? Like, just because someone is like said something on Twitter and posted a screenshot, like, ask the next step is not I'm just going to believe that and share it. The next step is let me ask a follow-up question, right? But that didn't happen today. So what did happen today? Well, a lot of people don't know that
So I had turned my mic off so I wouldn't talk and let it play for a good minute. It was hard. We're going to go back and just talk about each thing she points out here.
Because people can just like politics is so crazy because people can just like wake up and make up whatever they want to say about you, and it'll be totally false, and people will just believe it, right?
Politics is so crazy because you could just wake up and people talk about a graphic that I put out myself where I have military recruiters on the graphic listed. It's so crazy. Politics is so crazy. People can do that and people actually believe it. The gaslighting by this person.
They'll just believe it. So today, someone made up a rumor that
made up a rumor. I showed you the two graphics. The one graphic with her face, and it says hosted by, and the two reps, AOC along with I can't remember the other guy's name.
Me was host.
Oh, this part right here. Right, this part right here. Where she tries to give effect. Like that they're saying me. Like, so this is what she's trying to sell. She's saying to her audience on Instagram, and again, what happened was on Twitter. Instead of responding on Twitter to combat the so-called rumors she's talking about, she just goes to Instagram, liberal bastion, the progressive hellhole called Instagram. So she can get a friendly audience to sell this bogus bullshit story to. And what she's doing here is challenging her audience, her stands. Hey, based on the narrative I've created and sold you, does this sound like something I would do?
Me was hosting a military recruitment.
Let me rewind a little more.
Someone made up a rumor that me was hosting a military recruitment fair for high schoolers. Now, like, does that sound like something I would do?
all the propaganda out there that's calling me a leftist, does that match up? Does this truth match up with that propaganda narrative? I don't know, AOC. Let's see. Let's see if it lines up with you. Let's go right here. So it was so many titles, so many headlines, I couldn't even bring them up all. So I just have to scroll through there. So let's see, AOC. Let's see, have you done anything else that doesn't sound like you? Or doesn't sound like the narrative that you're supposed to have? Let's see. Here goes one right here. AOC, but actually, let's do this. Take the address and put it in the window. Let's go to this first one. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez pledges to put aside differences with Democratic leadership after Republican concessions. And then they have that. Republican confessions too far right. This is where she decided to unify with Hakeem Jeffries, the guy who's behind a pact to get rid of or make sure there's no more progressives that are elected. This is what she means. Put aside differences like policy. I don't know. Does that sound not like you, AOC? Let's go to more. Now I'm building up here. Let's see. Let's go here to this one. Let's read this headline. AOC praises Biden, defends war against Russia, and attacks socialist critics in interview with The Intercept. Does this sound like you, AOC? Let's go to another one. Let's not even go to this. Let's do a different one than that one. Here goes one. And in the top, this one off, the person who she's a disciple for went along with her on this one. AOC, Sanders, and the DSA vote for war. So when AOC in this video says, does that sound like me? We all said that with all these other headlines that I brought up. When she voted for Ukraine war, we all said, does that sound like AOC? Or the better question is, how come you didn't ask us that question when you voted for Ukraine funding? How come you didn't say that when you changed your vote on the Iron Dome? How come you didn't say that? So let's resume the video of this obvious attempt at retaining progressives and liberals. She knows she's already lost real socialists and anybody to the left of that. She's already know that. That's why she goes to Twitter. I'm sorry, Instagram. The same thing happened when she was getting drugged for her vote to break a strike. Remember, she finally responded, relational harm? That was released on Instagram too.
Like, no shade to anybody, but just me. Does that sound like something I would do? No? Then
you saw the headlines.
Basic due diligence would mean ask a follow-up question, right? Like, just because someone is like said something on Twitter and posted a screenshot, like, ask the next step is not, I'm just going to believe that and share it. The next step is, let me ask a follow-up question, right? But that didn't happen today. So what did happen today? Well, a lot of people don't know that your member of Congress can extend a lot of opportunities to you, especially if you're in high school. And there are things, for example, did you know that there's a congressional art challenge that happens every year? And if your piece of art is selected by your member of Congress, then you and your family fly to Washington. It gets hung up in the US Capitol. It's a big deal if you want to apply to.
This is her trying to gain sympathy. This is such, you know who does this a lot? Rokana does this. When he does something bad and then have an interview with Brianna, why this? Why that? He'll go, look, I prove I'm progressive. I've done da 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 da. And then he'll go back to answering the question. This is what she's doing. She's trying to give you some good without even addressing that this was a military event also, or military recruiters were there. So let's listen to more of her answer.
To colleges and schools. There's also a congressional app challenge for high schoolers as well. And if you can design an app, which Melissa right over here.
Now, interesting. She's showing visual receipts of the app part. I wonder if she's going to visually show the receipt of a huge face, her face on the wall at this event, because she was the one hosting it. And there's a person, a parent, who went inside to this event, who came out, we're going to play the video, who talks about this. So we'll get to that video, but let's listen to more of this bullshit story that she's concocted.
Did and won. It's also a really, really big deal. And you can have just like so much progress for college or any other opportunities as well. City Year, which is over there, provides a gap year if you're not ready to go to college.
So was City Year, I think that's how she said it, were they listed, or why weren't they listed on the thing, on the flyer?
College, you can spend a gap year in service. And so we held a student services fair to show all of the opportunities that are available to high school students. There were a small amount that had to do with our US service academies.
There was a small amount that had to do with them. A small amount. That's all.
Now, maybe you haven't heard of what a service academy is. Maybe you have. But maybe you've heard of institutions like West Point or Annapolis. And these are kind of like colleges, universities, military colleges, universities, except there is a requirement.
So, do you know you are enlisting when you go to West? Do you know that? Does she know that? So this is where she's trying to sell this as you're just getting an education. That's what she's trying to do here. So let's listen some more. I got more to say about this particular part.
In my job, part of my job just comes with the role.
Here she lies. This is a lie.
You cannot apply to these schools without a nomination, a federal nomination from your member of Congress, your representative, your senator, the vice president of the United States, or the president of the United States. You cannot apply.
I mean, I don't have to even look that up. And this didn't even have to be a viral video. And if I just offer my lived experience, I would already know that sounds suspicious. Because what she's telling me, and I don't even know how many students, I'm going to look it up in a second, but without me knowing how many students go to West Point, I think that's what she's using as an example. So this is what she's basically saying. So there's something set up where the people who go to West Point can only apply if they have a personal referral from somebody elected in Congress. So these old forts in Congress is supposed to know thousands of people new every year that's accepted into West Point. That's how this works. That's how I would analyze this. And I haven't even looked up anything. But let's look up West Point freshman class amount. Let's see. Or class size. There we go. Let's see if I get a total. Okay, it says 1,200 U.S. citizens, 1,200 freshmen. So every year, 1,200 people in our Congress people is supposed to know 1,200 people. So Nancy Pelosi been in Congress for 30 years. So for 30 years, she's recommending somebody. You see how that sounds suspicious, what AOC is saying? It sounds suspicious because it's a lie. Sabby covers it in the interview we do, or we're going to cover when she goes on Rising. But let's continue with the video with AOC.
Apply without that letter. And so we have a responsibility to inform people of that process. And there were a couple tables
so
there.
She's trying to say, I'm there because I'm required to be here, everybody. I'm required. The majority of the people who go to these schools get referrals from ROTC programs, which sounds a whole lot more likely and feasible than what she's trying to convince you of. She's simply fudging the truth, leaving out information in order to concoct a story. This seems to be very common with the professional managerial class. Ryan Grimm does it a lot, just leaving out information. Matt Duss, former Bernie Sanders foreign policy guy, does this a lot. But let's continue.
There today to talk about that. Now, among all of these tables, and even that was like such a small fraction of all the tables and stuff that was there. We even had the Department of Education come in, representatives, to deliver a presentation.
You notice she keeps showing this one side. I wonder if it's because the other side has her the big, huge picture that shows her. I wonder if that's the case.
On the changes to FAFSA that are coming up. In case you don't know, the FAFSA application process and some of those things are changing. And so people really need to know that. A lot of kids do their FAFSA on their own. I had to file my FAFSA by myself, and this is really important information to have. So, I mean, judge for yourself. Does this look like a recruitment fair to you?
I'm going to give you an analogy. Let's say, she said, let me let this play.
No, but
it does look like a recruitment fair.
But
this small section, let's say if it doesn't look, this small section doesn't. This small section that you're showing, AOC, why don't you pan around the whole room? And yes,
he started a rumor that's what was going on. Everyone just believed it and accepted it.
Nobody started a rumor. We looked at a flyer that told us this. This person, I really don't even understand how anybody can believe this person. How is anyone still believing this?
This is really important information to have. So, I mean, judge for yourself. Does this look like a recruitment fair to you?
Yes.
No.
So let me give you an analogy. Say you see a flyer, a graphic. It says, Male Appreciation Day. Or we can even say Black Male Appreciation Day. Let's say you had that on there. Hosted by CJ. My picture's on there. Then it said, special guests like Savannah, Cinnamon, Chocolate Thunder, like all these stripper names. If my wife saw that, would she look at that as a men's appreciation? Or would she look at that, motherfucker, this, you got strippers coming over here. This is what AOC is trying to tell us. And then I'm going to respond to my wife, what do you mean, babe? What do you mean? What do you mean? This is not a military recruitment event. This is not a stripping or a dancer event. They have snacks and punch. They have brochures of, that shows men how to check for prostate cancer. They have brochures on how to mentor young Black youth. How does that change the list of slippers, is what my wife would say. What the fuck does that have to do with the list of strippers on this flyer, Jay? Or she calls me James. It sounds ridiculous. And I wanted to use sort of a ridiculous example to point out how absurd this explanation she has is us. Because all you're doing is telling us everything else is there without telling us the recruitment part. You're telling us about the tables and showing us the people. Show us the tables with the recruiters. You acknowledge it's a small portion. That seems like the small portion. Show us the small portion. Show us the small portion where this just military recruiters. This seems pretty small. I mean, is it smaller than this? Where you're showing us?
But somebody started a rumor that that's what was going on. Everyone just believed it and accepted it. And the problem is when large accounts started to platform this, and then it starts spreading like wildfire. And it results in demands to cancel this event or for me to not.
You see? So she had to establish and tell you all the good without telling you anything about the military recruiting part so that she can come and use it to play victim. Look, people are saying we should close this event. And she's saying, look all the good stuff that's going to be affected. That's like saying getting rid of private insurance, and then their response is, look at all the employees that's going to be affected if we get rid of private insurance. Then don't tie military recruiting with student fairs. How about you don't do that? Then you won't get this response, AOC, because even if all of what you're saying is true, you, as a supposed socialist, should be like, I'm not going to use my name to be involved with any military recruiting at any high school.
Not show up to it.
Trying to play victim.
Which would almost be like canceling, it's canceling an appearance. And so for doing this today, I was really subject to
for doing this today. Now you're going to tell us how you were subject to something, Miss Victim AOC, right? You were subject to something. This is clown shit right here.
A lot of really vile rhetoric and attacks all day to day. because of a
you're
rumor.
vile
And I can't
disgusting.
stress
It
how much
wasn't a rumor. You see how she keeps using this word? She's trying to change the narrative because of a rumor. It wasn't a rumor. We looked at a graphic that only listed military people. And then two government agencies. The educational department and something else. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, I'm gonna go from this. I can't take that much.
this
more
is not
I'm
just a
not gonna
right-wing
get through this whole
thing.
video. It's just not gonna
Social media algorithms incentivize conflict.
She is
They
just
incentivize
She is a
misinformation.
chaos agent. This narrative she's given is completely nonsensical, and then in the end she acts like she gave some receipts. But we're not gonna there's no way I can get through this nonsense with this person right here. But let's listen to what how they're talking about it on Fox News. And I hate to do this to you, but we do got to listen to a little bit of Jesse Waters. He is one of the people I avoid on Fox News. His voice is just annoying. So, but let's listen to Jesse Waters and how it's covered on Fox News. Now, of course, I don't expect him to cover it in any substantive way. Maybe he's covering it, of course, to take a jab at her. So let's listen to how he covers it.
AOC has a big problem, a serious problem. She's now finding out that in politics, people lie.
Politics is so crazy because people can just like wake up and make up whatever they want to say about you, and it'll be totally false, and people will just believe it, right? They'll just believe it. So today, someone made up a rumor that was hosting a military recruitment fair.
Yes, you.
For high schoolers. Now, does that sound like something
yes.
you would do?
Yes.
Now, it's okay to be a little skeptical when you're sending billions to Ukraine and voting for Biden's defense budget. But AOC says those are rumors, just not true. She said all she did was hold a recruitment fair where high schoolers just happened to be recruited into the military. But that's not the point. The point is AOC is realizing that lies are mean.
I was really subject to a lot of really vile rhetoric and attacks all day to day.
I don't want to hear your description. Show me what it is. I'll determine if it's vile or not.
I can't stress how much this is not just a right-wing thing. A lie can go out the door and run around the world before the truth has the time to put on its shoes. And it really has an effect because these campaigns are usually targeted most towards candidates and officials of color and women.
AOC is now fighting disinformation. And AOC, of all people, thinks we shouldn't be able to trust those who lie to us.
If you're trying to impact the decisions that are made, but you have lied in the past about the decision makers, then why should people believe anyone with a track history of sharing misinformation and then not owning up to it?
That's a good question. But it's not like AOC would ever make anything up, right? It's not
I can't believe AOC is playing. Well, thank God that RBN is here. Because you imagine going through these things with the squad, AOC, Progressive, and the strategy, Nina Turner, all this stuff, and you didn't have RBN's voice to say, hey, this is some nonsense that y'all are doing over here. Now, here's one of the, actually, let me read this. Let me pause it, and then I'll read what it says here. Now, this is one of the parents that came out of the meeting. So, but let me read the caption here. Let me read what it says. It says, a first-hand account of what a demonstrator saw upon walking in before and getting kicked out. So this is a demonstrator. She went inside and then was kicked out. So let's listen to what it said.
Was there early, and I said that I wanted to get in. I wanted to take notes. I'm involved with an organization. I didn't tell them we are not your soldiers. Wanted to try to find a teacher. A giant sign of AOC, a giant picture when you walk in the lobby. 2 colonels entered while I was there. Also, they were handing this out. U.S. Naval Academy, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Military Academy, Merchant Marines, Coast Guard Academy. And so it's obvious that the whole lobby was filled.
Now, why didn't AOC have this part? You know how she was supposedly showing receipts? Look, does this look like a military recruiting? You notice she only kept the one tight spot, which was by the stage and not the entrance, which this eyewitness account is talking about. What she's describing, all the military shit, passing out the leaflets, was happening at the front door, which AOC never shows in her victim video. So let's listen, continue to listen here. This is a minute video. We're about halfway through, but I'm going to rewind it back to about 20 seconds so we can hear.
Walk in the lobby. 2 colonels entered while I was there. Also, they were handing this out. U.S. Naval Academy, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Military Academy, Merchant Marines, Coast Guard Academy. And so it's obvious that the whole lobby was filled with uniformed people, with cops, and with officers of the military.
We never saw that in her video. We never saw that, and I have another video that shows another angle, and you can see some of the cops. How come that's not in there, AOC? When you pan, when you not even pan, when you show, does this look like a military recruitment? How come none of your footage shows all of this stuff? Lying sack of shit.
In all of the papers. Shame to AOC to connect with this. Unfortunately, they told me that they changed the rules. At first, they said I could get in once all the students were seated, but then they said I had to leave. I was there early, and
so she was seated for a while, and then they got rid of her. I guess commotions. You know, this started happening. I guess, and that's what happened. But anyway, let me go back to my bookmarks and see what else I have. Here. It starts right. Oh, here is where you can. I think you can see. So, and this is. Oh, let me shout out the person who I'm getting this. This is U.S. NATO. This is Box Kami at BX Kami is the one that's providing all of this. Public school parents are blocked from entering the AOC-sponsored predatory military recruiting event in the Bronx by a wall of police. AOC released video of full speeches you gave the full room military recruiters and AOC released a video of the full speech you gave to the full room. So in that video shot she had, none of these people were in there. Remember how she showed, does this look like a military recruitment center? No, but this does. This looks like the entrance to a military recruitment center. And I go to school events, small kids, not even high school, and ain't ever seen no police there. Ever. Go to a PTA event, back to school night, all these events I go to, ain't never police there. Not one. Why does this one have all these people? AOC, man, has been fully exposed. I don't understand. If you still are following this girl, I mean, this lady, I don't get it. And this is a protester was at the march. His brother was in the military and was killed at a military base. And I'll show you the article in just a second, but let's listen to his brother speak, and I'll read the caption. Outside the AOC-sponsored U.S. military recruitment event, a low-income public high school in the Bronx, we invited Mohammed Latifu to speak, who is seeking justice for his 21-year-old brother, Abdul Latifa, who was murdered in January at Fort Rucker, a U.S. military base. So he's outside of this school, high school, where they're having this military recruiting event, and here's him talking about it.
So today, no answers, no phone call stating that, oh yes, we're just trying to give you something tangible to keep your mind at peace. My father can't sleep. My mom can't sleep. I can't sleep. Yet my brother, it's not here with us. He's gone forever. Yeah, they said, and I quote, they have arrested somebody. We still don't have no updates as to what this person is. We constantly have to find out information on our own, on the news outlet down south. This is absurd. And it's sickening. So anybody who is thinking about enlisting their kid to the military, I think you better think again. Don't do it. I wouldn't.
Right. Study abroad for free.
Exactly. Don't do it, because I wouldn't. I wouldn't even dare ask my kids, friends, anybody to join the military. Any sector. I don't care what it is, what they're doing to quote unquote serve the protect the country, because they're not. They're killing your own. They're molesting these women that go over there, these kids, young men and women that go over there, sexually harass them, and then kill them. Then try to cover it up. And then they'll tell you sorry for what happened, our condolences. No, keep your condolences.
Mm-hmm.
We want answers. That's what we want, really.
Justice.
Justice for everybody who had to endure this, and for the families who had to endure this. You understand me? You don't know what they're going through at night. A sudden death, it's not what a parent wants to hear.
Sudden death. No explanation. So there is an article. Excuse me. I think I have.
So today, no answers.
I think it's saved here. Yeah, right here. So let me bring it up. And he's from the Bronx. So this is AOC's constituent. Let me actually put the article actually in the screen here, and this is his brother, and I'll read the caption of the picture. It says, U.S. Army private, I'm assuming PVT stands for private, Abdul Latifa died on January 10th at Fort Rucker, a U.S. Army base in Alabama. The Army says his death stemmed from injuries during an accident with another soldier. Bronx family looking for answer after soldier killed on Alabama Army base. Mohammed Latifa says he wants answers after his 21-year-old brother, Private Abdul Latifa, died on January 10th at Fort Rucker. So yeah, just terrible. But now, look at this young man's face. AOC, if you're watching. What if a young man just like him showed up to an event, your student fair, to make a decision on what he wanted to do with his life, And he came because they're into you in politics, and they came to an event because you were going to be there. And then a military recruiter gets a hold of him. How are you not responsible for that? So you can say all you want. Oh, we were doing this. We were serving tea and cookies on the other side. All this other stuff you want to say doesn't take away you're still doing the military recruiting part. And these are the faces they're getting from her particular area. Faces that look like this young man. He is actually from the Bronx. If he was alive, he would be her constituent. Oh, these people. Like Nick says, at this point, if you're still following the fantasy of the progressive Democrats, AOC, like, it's laughable. Like, this is a joke. This is literally a joke. This picture also blew up. What is this here? This says, please share. We're here at the AOC Military Recruitment Fair. Security isn't letting in parents who have registered. They want to talk to their kids alone, and that got 27. And then she goes on to clarify. To clarify further, they let in some parents with their kids and others they blocked, while letting in all kids who came alone. AOC snuck in the side door and then either waited until long after it was over or left through another entrance we weren't near. So these are people on the ground that we know, like Blue Moon, another person from the Bronx, Jose Vega, who does a lot of the. So these are people that's in her district doing this reporting. And she's just making up stories. We already covered that video, so we don't need to do that. So shout out to Box Kami. Shout out to Box Kami for getting us a lot of this, or getting, sending a lot of footage to me at least, and a few others. So shout out to Box Kami. Now let me show you. Let me see the other thing I got. I'm going to bring it up in another screen here. Okay, Sabby sent me that video. I played that one, Sabby. Let's see if there's another one. All right, so I think I got all the receipts. And I got that one. Oh! I forgot to play. I don't think I played the Democracy Now! Video. So let's do that. So that's the next one I'm going to play, is the Democracy Now! Video, which is right here. Well, maybe it'll let me know if I played it or not. But let's play it and see. So hang on a second. It's still pulling up. It'll change on your screen in just a second here. Okay, so I think I was gonna play it and then I held off on playing because I think I held off on playing. But let me start it and see if it jogs a memory. I think I held off on playing it. Let's minimize that. All right, so this is Democracy Now! Covering, and how they cover it. It says a rally at a Bronx high school Monday protested a military recruitment and job fair event hosted by U.S. Congressperson Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Adriano Esplata. I think that's how you say it. Advocates accuse AOC of backtracking on her anti-war campaign promise. So I don't that doesn't ring a bell, so I don't think I played this video. So let's listen to the coverage. It's less than 2 minutes on Democracy Now! About this event.
In solidarity. And here in New York, dozens of community organizers, parents, teachers, and students rallied at Bronx High School Monday, protesting a military recruitment and job fair event hosted by New York Congress members Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Adriano Espaillat. The so-called Student Services Fair featured representatives of the U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. Advocates accused Ocasio-Cortez of backtracking on her anti-war campaign promises and policies opposing predatory military recruitment tactics that predominantly target Black, Brown, Latinx, and low-income students. In 2020, Ocasio-Cortez proposed a ban against military recruitment on Twitter, while she later pushed for a bill amendment that would have halted federal funding for military recruitment in middle and high schools. Richie Marino is an organizer with the Bronx Anti-War Coalition, speaking at Monday's rally at Renaissance High School, which took place on the 20th anniversary of the U.S. invasion of Iraq.
A lot of youth here are struggling to find jobs. Many youth here are not prepared to go to college, right? Instead of bringing military recruiters here, we should be having a jobs fair. We should be having a college fair. Renaissance High School is an arts and theater school. Where are the arts and theater programs represented here, AOC? You're saying this is a student services fair. Where are the services for the youth?
Richie Marino was speaking with.
So this is an arts and theater school. Why would they even be there? Why are they even part, like as an option at an arts and theater school? That would be my question, because I went to a performing arts school for a time. And that's the whole point, is you're going there because that's the sort of the career path you want to go, whatever art or performing arts that you are attending for.
With Democracy Now!'s Sanji Lopez, organizers also demanded justice for Vanessa Guillen and Ana Basilio Ruiz, 2 Latina women who were killed after they reported.
I'm going to let this play. But AOC, 2 other young faces, 2 more people of color, young faces, along with Abdul, who we showed earlier, in your district. These are the people that can get caught up with the military because you decided to lend your face and your likeness to bring in these people, leading them down the path of these 3 who have lost their lives here.
And
let me rewind so we can get the full story of those 2.
Officers also demanded justice for Vanessa Guillen and Ana Basilio Ruiz, 2 Latina women who were killed after they reported being sexually assaulted at Fort Hood Army Base in Texas. Guillen in 2020, Ruiz last week, and 21-year-old Abdul Latifu, who was murdered in January by another soldier at Fort Rucker in Alabama. Latifu was from the Bronx.
So that's all their story. Now, they printed some sort of retraction for calling it a military recruitment after AOC contacted them. That's some real journalism going on at Democracy Now!, huh? Standing there, like, it's ridiculous. All right, so there's that one.
Right.
Now, I think that might be... No, there is one more. Oh, a big one. RBN covers, so it kind of overlaps, but RBN goes on The Hill to talk about it. Here is Sabby on The Hill with Brianna Joy Gray talking AOC.
Students, parents, teachers, and organizers rallied at Renaissance High School in the Bronx on Monday to protest a military recruitment and job fair event hosted by U.S. Congress members Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Adriano Espaillat. Advocates accused AOC of backtracking on her anti-war campaign promises and policies opposing military recruitment practices that primarily target Black, Brown, and Latino low-income students, Democracy Now! Reports. The rally took place on the 20th anniversary of the U.S. invasion of Iraq. AOC has denied hosting a military recruitment event and said it was a student services fair.
Politics is so crazy because people can just like wake up and make up whatever they want to say about you, and it'll be totally false, and people will just believe it, right?
That's so crazy because people can like wake up and hear the truth and like believe it. That's so crazy. That's AOC.
They'll just believe it. So today, someone made up a rumor that me, was hosting a military recruitment fair for high schoolers. Now, like, does that sound like something I would do?
Yes.
Like, no shade to anybody, but just me. Does that sound like something I would do?
Yes. You voted to spend millions to Ukraine.
Basic due diligence would mean ask a follow-up question, right? Like, just because someone is like said something on Twitter and posted a screenshot, like, ask the next step is not I'm just going to believe that and share it. The next step is let me ask a follow-up question.
In 2020, Ocasio-Cortez proposed a ban on U.S. military recruitment on the Twitch platform. Joining us now to discuss this is host of the Savvy Saps podcast, Sabrina Salvati. Welcome.
Good morning.
So great to have you with us. So is there truth to the idea that she was hosting a military recruitment fair? She's complaining. She's saying everybody's getting it wrong, but I'm seeing plenty of reporting that says military recruitment was one of the options at this kind of career day event. What say you?
It was one of the options at the career day event. I've actually spoken to the protesters who were at this event. I know some of those protesters personally. So basically, there were military academies that were present at this event, and they were the headliners for the event. There were other organizations there as well, but you had organizations such as the United States Air Force Academy, the Naval Academy. All four branches there were represented. And for AOC to pretend like they weren't really a part of this or they weren't a significant part of this event is really disingenuous on her point. Also in that response vid, what she also mentions is that there were protesters who were outsiders that didn't even live there. That's actually incorrect. The protesters were from the Bronx and they were from Queens, and Queens is the area that Adriano represents. So the protesters are people who live there in that area. She also went on to say in that video that in order to get into an academy like West Point, you need to receive a nomination from a congressman or a congresswoman / politician. That's actually incorrect. I actually know multiple people that have attended West Point. I'm from a military family. I'm very familiar with how these military academies work. And what she leaves out is the fact that a lot of people attend West Point because they have a nomination from their ROTC unit from high school. You do not need a nomination from a congressperson.
So the lie that AOC tells, congressperson has to, no, they don't. Now, just human experience, and I showed that in my, human experience told me that sound fishy. Sabby, military brat, traveled around. She tells this story all the time. Knows all about this type of shit. Knows multiple people in these types of schools. Referred by ROTC programs from high school. But why is AOC trying to... Now, either AOC doesn't know the story, or she knows that part and omits that. This is what the professional managerial class does. They always are telling these stories, omitting information to guide the thinking.
In order to attend West Point, that was just an excuse for her to explain why she needed to be there. I also want to add to people, it's important that you understand. She goes on to explain that these are academies, they're getting college education. But the idea that when you join these military academies is that you are going to go into the military afterwards. When you sign up to join West Point, you are joining the Army. So AOC is now willing to have this conversation with someone who's very familiar with the process, who knows a lot.
This is the part where I said Savvy is calling her out to you know, not explicitly, but she's saying she doesn't want to have a conversation who knows this shit, and she's already established that Savvy knows this shit. It's no way. Get the fuck out of here. No way she would have an interview with Savvy. And you don't even got to ask about no RBN. You don't even got to ask about that. You already know that's not happening.
To be there. I also want to add to people, it's important that you understand. She goes on to explain that these are academies, they're getting college education. But the idea that when you join these military academies is that you are going to go into the military afterwards. When you sign up to join West Point, you are joining the Army. So AOC is now willing to have this conversation with someone who's very familiar with the process, who knows a lot about the military. She wants to get on Instagram instead of posting that video on Twitter, which is where she received a lot of the criticism. And I also thought it was interesting that she goes on to say in that video that the people.
This is the point that I make, that Savvy makes also too. Why did she went on Instagram? Progressive bastion of the progressive hellhole, along with Facebook. They're owned by the same person, so whatever, same thing. Let's continue.
People who are criticizing her are typically people who come after women and people of color. Well, I'm a Black woman, so she can miss me with all of that. This is just an excuse. I think AOC needs to own up to what she did here and stop calling people names, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, this is such an interesting one because I mean, I think the devil's advocate version of this is AOC went because she wanted to participate in this job fair. Job fairs, and my memory of how high school was so many years ago, was that there were often people from military institutions at those events as well. And that saying that AOC hosted a military event might be a military recruitment event, might be somewhat, kind of hyperbolic, somewhat of an exaggeration, but also one could critique her and say something along the lines of, you said you were opposed to these kind of recruitment events. You should have recused yourself from this one if any part of it was associated with a military institution. And do you think that's a meaningful difference? Would people be on?
And that was the other point that I made, is that even by your own description that it was a small part, you should not be lending your likeness or image to any event that includes that. Now, are you trying to tell me, AOC, at your celebrity stature, at your congressional level, you couldn't go to that school and say, but hey, I know you're doing this event, great, but can we plan something separate that doesn't have them, and I will be able to participate? Have that, let them do their thing, because I don't want to get in that, but I can't be involved with bringing young people out to have an option of going to the military industrial complex because I'm anti-war. She's obviously not anti-war, but that's what she tried to project.
Her footing and be less kind of targeted by AOC's pushback here, if instead of arguing that she hosted a military recruitment event, simply attended a job fair at which there was also a military recruitment, and that perhaps she should not have done so?
I think it's the way that the flyer represented the event. It said join AOC and Adriano at this event. So they were announced as kind of like the host, so to speak. The protesters did speak to one of the adults that was able to get inside of the event. And
sorry. Sabby tweeted out, all I said was Sabby tweeted out one flyer, and it's like an email, like a memo. The one that I tweeted out and I showed you that had her name on, her AOC's face on it, That flyer says hosted by AOC and the other person. That flyer actually says hosted, and they don't address that here in Rising. I'm not sure if Savvy has seen the second graphic. The graphic she used doesn't say the hosted part, but this one does. So, or the one I showed does.
And they said there was a giant blow up picture of AOC's face. So I think that's why some people were using the phrase that she hosted the event. Now, we'll go on to say, I'm incredibly disappointed with Democracy Now! They have actually revised their statement. Apparently, AOC's office contacted them, and then they made that change. But it's really disappointing because for journalism, you're supposed to reach out to both sides. I'm curious as to see why didn't Democracy Now! Interview any of those protesters that were at that event and get their side of the story instead of just changing their statement. So it makes me wonder.
How did they revise the statement from what to what?
So the original statement that you guys showed at the very beginning, they actually went back on Twitter and they retweeted the revised statement and said that they were contacted by AOC's office, that this was not a military event. This was just a student services event, yada, yada. And there were no military recruiters there. Now, if they would have actually spoken to the protesters, they would know that there actually were military recruiters there. In fact, a former colonel actually was interviewed by one of the protesters, and that's on video. So I was really disappointed with them for not following up with the other side to get the other side of the story and just taking that push from AOC's office and choosing to retract their statement.
So I see, I pulled up the Teen Vogue coverage of this, and they similarly have an editor's note at the bottom where they say this story and its headline were updated after publication to include a statement from Representative Ocasio-Cortez's office and note that Ocasio-Cortez co-hosted the event with Representative Espaillat rather than with the military academies themselves. So they obviously didn't. I mean, it's possible that Democracy Now! And Teen Vogue or anyone else who wrote about this reached out for comment and didn't hear back, and then published the story, and then got this response from AOC's office because they were getting all this heat. That happens all the time. So it might be that they sought the answer, didn't get it, published anyway. That would be something any of us would do. So
yeah, well, look, here's what anti-war organizer Richie Marino had to say at Monday's rally.
A lot of youth here are struggling to find jobs. Many youth here are not prepared to go to college, right? Instead of bringing military recruiters here, we should be having a jobs fair. We should be having a college fair. Renaissance High School is an arts and theater school. Where are the arts and theater programs represented here, AOC? You're saying this is a student services fair. Where are the services for the youth?
So Sabby, I'd like to understand that there were exclusively that protesters seemed to be characterizing it as an event that exclusively was hosting military recruiters. Was it not a broader job fair in addition to West Point and other military affiliated organizations?
Based on what I saw from the flyer, the military academies, they were the headliners of the event. There were a couple other organizations like the Department of Education to help students out with the changes to the FAFSA. But other than that, there weren't that many other, I think a City Year might have been one of the other organizations, but the military service academies, like they were the headliners of the event. I've been to multiple student fairs as well, so I'm very familiar with how it works. But I think the problem that you run into with this event is if AOC would have just owned up to the fact and said, yes, there were military academies at this event, and yes, there were also military recruiters, which he is saying they were not. If she would have just owned up to that, I think people wouldn't be as furious. Now, some people are still going to be frustrated because it goes against what she said in 2020. But I think where AOC went wrong in that response video is she starts to demonize the protesters. She starts to lie about them and say that they were outsiders when they live in the Bronx or they live in Queens, which are both of their representative areas. And I think that is what is really upsetting people, the statements that she made about them, and also saying that these people who are criticizing her typically come after women and people of color. And she leaves out the fact that some of the protesters were both women and people of color. So it's just another thing. Like, she made it seem like she was being attacked. I know one of the protesters did try to talk to her when she entered the event and when she exited the event, and she just ran away from them. So this is the same person who told people that protests are supposed to disrupt. I guess she didn't mean that in reference to her. Like, she doesn't even want to talk to them. So if she wants people to ask questions, she's not giving them the opportunity to do so. She's running away instead.
Yeah, I think that's fair criticism of her for how she handled it and how she framed it. For myself personally, the two of you might disagree. That's fine. I don't feel this strongly, particularly. I guess I wouldn't have a problem with a job fair where military recruitment is one of the options among many, but it does look like that's pretty discordant with what she said on the subject previously, and then how she kind of blamed people for being mad about it in a very, you're not covering me fairly, which is a well she returns to over and over again these days.
Over and over
Sabrina,
again.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll have more Rising right after this.
And Ryzen is changing their imaging, their graphics. You can see how they're, I don't know what the right word. You can tell that they've changed a little bit of it, but yeah, Savvy again on Ryzen, RBN on Ryzen, doing a fantastic job pointing out and some of you pointed out Bree, what is she doing? Bree plays devil's advocate sometimes, and I know some people don't like that sometimes, but she said she was playing devil's advocate. Let's hope that that's what was going on. So I covered the Aaron Monte and Jimmy Dore caught Ryan Grimm lying. We just covered the backlash of AOC's viral military recruitment event. We covered the reality of Marianne Williamson with Sam Seder. We covered RBN goes on Ryzen to talk to AOC. And we've also covered Ryan Grimm blocks RBN. So it looks like we got everything in today. So I want to thank everybody who came through. We had a total of 1,700 different unique people slide through. The last time I checked, we were at 550 likes. Let's push to 600 on our way out. Remember, Nick will be on later tonight. I don't know the time, but I know Nico House will be the guest, if not one of the guests. Nico House will be on Nick at Night tonight. So make sure you get on our Substack so that you are getting a notification of when Nick goes on tonight. You also want to get on our Substack for any future live events, any clips that we drop. We try to drop 3 to 4 every day. Sometimes we do 5. Make sure you support our fundraiser for Erin and the great graphics she does, like this one you see and this fundraising graphic. You can send donations to Venmo, Revolutionary Blackout. We're trying to raise, or the target is $1,000. If you're able to contribute, do so. I'm going to play the video again that the police are killing our kids video that Erin made again. So Erin is the one, or Erin is our editor, and she's one of our the people we're raising funds for our labor fundraiser. So the goal is 1,000. Again, here is the video, and I'll use it as an outro video. How about that? We'll use it as an outro video. So on my way out, we're going to play this video. And it's a video. Now, I'm not going to play the sound, but it's a visually well done video. So it doesn't matter if you don't, if you're not able to see the sound, because it's that good. Man, where is that video? Okay, I think it's after this is when it comes up. Or maybe it's after this one. After this one. All right, right here. All right, so it's a visually stimulating video, so you'll completely get it even without the sound. The title is called Cops Shot the Kid, and it's about police are killing our kids. I'm going to blow it up and put it on mute, and we're going to watch it as the outro and understand Erin is the one who created this video. So enjoy.
everybody. We just came here to party, see a few dames, exchange some names.
So I wanted you to hear it with no sound, and then I'll let you hear just a snippet of what the beat and the music is about. But this video is visually stimulating. It is showing the murderer on the left side and the victim on the right side. In some cases, there's one police officer, and in other cases, there's multiple. It's two. Like this one has 4. And then you also see the footage. So this is a great video that Aaron put together. Like I said, you can watch it on silent, and it's just as good. The music just gives it the little more emotion, but this, you can watch this without the sound all the time. Now, I'll probably do like a special live just to, play this video and know that it may get demonetized, or it's going to be demonetized. And I don't know. They might even take it down. I don't know how they've been doing lately. But this cop shot his own daughter. And then you see some of the other footage here. Great video again. This was 5 cops. That's actual footage of what happened. And throughout the video, that there's sort of that when it goes to the identified victims and the identified cops who actually shot. It's a great, great video. Anyway, thank you, Aaron, for the video. Make sure you support the fundraiser to raise money for this type of work that Aaron is doing. Great work.